want to get your take on the broader foreign policy out of this administration and why there have been so many missteps. You know, what is their thinking in terms of foreign policy, and does that continue should Kamala Harris win this election? I mean, look at the approach to communist China. We now learn that a former top aide, the deputy chief of staff to New York governors Kathy Hochul and Andrew Cuomo, has been arrested and charged with being an acting agent of the Chinese government. She's 41-year-old Linda Sun, accused of using her high rank to serve the Chinese Communist Party. In exchange for millions of dollars and gifts, her husband was also arrested. The accused worked in state government for 15 years. She allegedly blocked Taiwanese leaders from accessing the governor, provided unauthorized invitations to Chinese leaders for travel to the U.S., and sought to shape the state's messaging on China's. Hochul's spokesperson giving this statement to Fox, saying this individual was hired by the executive chamber more than a decade ago. We terminated her employment in March of 2023 after discovering evidence of misconduct, immediately reported her actions to law enforcement, have assisted law enforcement throughout the process. As the House could vote on multiple China-related bills during its upcoming China Week, I'm going to get to the China Week in a second, but I'd like to know why the Chinese Communist Party has been so effective at getting inside the gates of America and so effective at getting close to leading Democrats. I mean, look at Eric Swalwell. Look at Dianne Feinstein. Yeah. She had a Chinese spy, right, you know, driving her car for 20 years. Eric Swalwell was helped by a Chinese spy win local elections. What's going on?
Maria, it is, among other things, the new Democrat Party's flaunting with the globalists. And they don't see a problem with China. That's the other side of the equation, that the Democrat Party doesn't see a problem with totalitarian regimes in government. You got Bernie Sanders, who honeymooned in Russia, and I'm talking the USSR, right? And now you've got Tim Walz, who's taken, I don't know, dozens of trips, taken his class to dozens of trips in China and extols the virtues of China. These folks don't get it, that these people that they're nuzzling up to are our enemies. So imagine how shocked they are when our enemy is right inside the gates that they've invited them into. I mean, Linda Sun was on a conference call during the pandemic that the public was not invited to with the New York State government regarding their response and whether China was involved. I mean, what do you expect when you do things like that?
I mean, it's worse than that. For 4 years, beginning in 2016, the Democrats were screaming Russia, Russia, Russia. Trump colluded with Russia, Russia, Russia. And yet, throughout the entire process, instead of focusing on the lie that Hillary Clinton made up about Donald Trump, they should have been looking at our number one adversary. And they should have been stopping the number one adversary, that is Communist China, from getting inside the gates of America. Instead, we've got incredible access, so much so that we had a surveillance balloon traverse the country for a week. We've got Chinese police stations on the ground in America, their own police, really? Okay, we've got fentanyl flowing within the country, killing American citizens. We've got theft of intellectual property going on for decades. And now you've got people in high positions with spies in their office, the deputy chief of staff for the New York governor. I mean, give me a break. And senators all over Washington, as you know, as I just mentioned, Eric Swalwell. Why has the Democrat Party been so easy on Communist China, allowing this kind of access?
I think it's because they love the activity of the Chinese Communist Party vis-a-vis its citizens, and they wish they could have that control. Let's remember that China, even though you can take a trip there, their citizens live under a system of social credits and mass surveillance on a daily basis. Meanwhile, the United States, this administration, with the vice president running for president, is sending John Podesta, who is John Kerry's stunt double, over to China to talk to them about climate change. Right. The Chinese are the biggest emitters on the planet. They're not interested in climate change. What they're interested in is hobbling America through this Green New Deal, which I'm sure they support. and having their adversary weakened. Their adversary is us.
Yeah.
We are weakening us because the Democrat Party loves the control that the Chinese Communist Party has over its people.
No questions about the 50,000 Chinese nationals that have been able to come through the wide open border to America in the last 2 years. No questions about the constant propaganda on TikTok and other places from Communist China. We're just going there to kiss the ring of Xi Jinping to try to improve this relationship. I want to get your take on what's going to happen next week, and that is Congress is back in session. We've got a potential government shutdown looming at the end of September when funding is set to run out. I've reported on this program many times that House Speaker Mike Johnson wants to tie the continuing resolution to extend government funding through March of 2025 to the SAVE Act. That bill would help secure the upcoming election by preventing non-citizens from voting. So you've got that. Do you think he's going to have success with attaching the SAVE Act to the CR? And what happens when it gets to the Senate? Doesn't it die in the Senate? And what about this China week? What are you expecting?
Well, at China Week, I'm expecting to see a lot of information that shows that the United States is vulnerable to China and that we need to stiffen our resolve, disallow them from being in our stock market, buying up American land. Simple reciprocity with China, I think, would go a long way. That's what I see for China Week. Regarding the spending, look, the House doesn't have a willing partner in the Senate. They've moved no appropriations bills through on the floor. And so I think you're going to see a CR with the SAVE Act. And then I think that we need to leave town, and that's what has to pass. The Senate will have to pass that and also secure our election in November. That's what I hope the strategy is, and that's what I hope the outcome is.
Well, I don't understand why Chuck Schumer would not want to ensure that only American citizens are voting in the upcoming election. What's the problem there? But real quick before you go, Congressman, you're in a tight race in Pennsylvania yourself against Democrat Janelle Stelson. Democrats are looking to flip your seat. How do you feel about the down ballot races this November? What are your expectations for this election?
Well, Democrats have been willing or interested in flipping this seat and seats across Pennsylvania, across the country for years. But the thing is Maria, they have a terrible message. People can't afford their groceries. They can't afford their electricity bills. They look at crime running rampant across the country and a wide open border, embarrassment on the international stage. People vote with their wallets and their pocketbooks, and they don't see this administration or the next one changing any of that. So I don't see it's going to be very productive for Democrats in Pennsylvania or elsewhere.
All right. We will be watching these tight races. Good to see you, sir. Thanks so much.
Good to see you. Thank you.
All right, Congressman Scott Perry joining us. Stay with us. We'll be right back.